wanted us to look at Billiton, BHP Billiton, listed on our local exchange. Akbar, I think this is a beautiful graph. Why? I've got a strong rising channel. And this is a negative formation. If that lower band of the channel waiting there at 329 Rand 85 remains a resistance, that channel will be confirmed. What is the target of the channel? The overall target, the full target. It's the width of the channel projected downwards from where the channel will be confirmed, which means Billiton can possibly go to 256 Rand 85. And take note how closely that is waiting to that red line, my 40-week moving average, and that is waiting at 331 Rand 80. So if you want to short it, I would wait for confirmation below that 40-week moving average. Try to enter a short there, and then you can use 353 Rand 72 as a stop loss. The other indication that I think Billiton is maybe losing steam here at the moment is the lower highs. Some might even call this a double top that will be confirmed when this trend line changes into a resistance. But also we had a bounce, a pullback, a bounce, a pullback, a little bit of a consolidation, then a bounce again and a pullback. But the resistance here is lower than the resistance it found here. And that tells me lower highs, loss of momentum, and the buyers are not keen to protect the share at these levels. So yes, Akbar, I think we can see some nice downside. Obviously, keep an eye also on 308 Rand and 5 cents. That is a critical, strong level of support or resistance. If that 308 Rand 35 changes into a resistance, I almost want to say that will be the third tick on the box to say, I think the momentum to the bottom can continue. The buyers have dried up and we can see even downside. If the share is able to change that 40-week moving average into a support and keep it one, you can maybe see another bounce here on that lower band and above, maybe test that upper band again. And this long descending, rising channel can even continue to rise to higher levels. But use that upper band there, 351.45, or that tail, 352.72 as possible protection levels. Murray wanted us to look at AECI, ticker AFE on our JSE. I think at the moment it will be a difficult place to enter the share. Because why? It's already given a beautiful rally. But take note there, Murray, for the last 3 consecutive weeks, every time it found support at 99 Rand 70. And that is very positive. That tells you the buyers are serious to protect that level and they don't want it to change into a resistance. And as well, you can see the way that lower band of the rising wedge found support here. And even when the share pulled back, it found support every time at higher levels. And that is obviously higher lows. That tells and implies optimism. And more importantly, that red line is remaining a support. That tells me the sentiment, the long-term sentiment towards AECI is positive. The big test will be to see whether it keeps these levels a resistance. If the share can change this upper band, waiting there at around 130.61, and even if we extend it a little bit, wherever that level will be tested, if the share can break through that and change those levels into a support, 113.80, it will imply that the momentum to the top will continue. These are 3 strong candles with long lower shadows. I'm above my 40-week moving average. It looks a positive. And even if I extend if I put in a horizontal line here, which is also a very strong support or a resistance level that was tested previously, tested here as a resistance and here for a couple of times, the next higher low will be confirmed. Why? It was a pullback. A bounce, found resistance, it pulled back, found support, but that support was higher than the support here, and then obviously bounced again, found a little bit resistant, pulled back, found support there at these 3 candles, and bounced again. So every time there's higher lows, which tells me people, buyers, investors are accumulating on the pullbacks, and that is seen as positive. Obviously, first sign of warning, Murray, would be below 99 Rand 70. I'll be a bit concerned there. And obviously, when the share starts to consolidate below that 40-week moving average, waiting at 98 Rand 15, I will be concerned. Michael wanted us to look at Signia, and I want to change Signia into a line graph because then the picture is a little bit clearer. I think this is a beautiful graph, Michael. I really do it. One, we see higher lows at the moment. We saw a pullback, found support, bounced, found resistance, pulled back. But every time these support levels are higher than the previous one, and even here in that week of the 27th of January, Signia pulled back and found support. But this diagonal line that I've drawn in there is a critical level that needs to change into a support in order for us to believe technically that the momentum to the top will continue. And that is waiting at 10 Rand and 4 cents. And remember, this is a weekly graph, and these are closing prices dotted on a line. So the share needs to close above 10 Rand and 4 cents on a Friday close in order for that line to be confirmed as a strong support. The next strong resistance level that needs to change into a support is obviously waiting there at 10 Rand 54. Above 10 Rand 54, that next higher low will be confirmed, which will be seen as positive. That red line, my 40-week moving average, is a beautiful support. And again, tick done, that is seen as positive. Unfortunately, my stochastic indicator is not in ideal territory. You should have started buying Signia when the stochastic was low, or your RSI or Bollinger Band was oversold, or even your MACD, whatever you use as an indicator to highlight oversold levels. That was actually the ideal place to start to accumulate Signia. But I don't think it's too late. If we zoom back, the share is coming from a very low base. Above that 10 Rand and 4 cents, I would start to accumulate. Stop loss that you can use is that 40-week moving average, 9 Rand 47. And you can play around, maybe test a 10 or a 20-week and see if that might not be a closer level as a stop loss that you can use. Beautiful targets to the upside there of around 11.49, that 11 Rand 98 and even higher levels. It's coming from a low base, and with those higher lows and that strong support of the 40-week moving average, Michael, I think you've got something in the bag here. Gareth wanted us to look at Sasol. Now, we've mentioned previously, and I don't want to repeat myself, that there was a head and shoulder formation on Sasol that could take it to 180 Rand. That means the formation is still on the table. It's still a possibility. Whether it's probable, that we can debate, because the share has been hit very hard. It is extremely oversold, obviously. But now the level is, Christelle, where can we buy it? So I've looked back and I retraced and I went as far back as 2008 and 2009. And we can see, and I want to draw in this horizontal line here, because I think that is possible levels where even Sasol can go if 180 scares you. 116 Rand 19 is a strong level. And you can maybe use that as a stop loss level if you want to continue to accumulate Sasol on the pullbacks. That is a critical level that was tested here in November 2008, again here in February 2007. And if we look back in that range in 2005, 2006, it is a strong support that remained a support with a share bounce. So some might say, Christelle, the picture at Sasol looks a lot different than it did in 2006 and 7 and 8. That's true. But the sentiment of the investors are still, Christelle, where can I buy them? I'm keen to accumulate. So 116.719 is a strong level. Below that, we will be concerned. And then the formation, the target of that 180 Rand of the head and shoulder formation becomes more probable. If you want to wait for confirmation, Gareth, I would wait for higher lows. What do I mean by that? I want Sasol to bounce to whatever level, retrace a little bit, and then bounce again. And then wherever that bounce was, I want that, or that resistance was, I want the share to change that into a support. Because then it will tell me that the buyers are more than the sellers. They are keen to buy the share despite the pullbacks, and they believe that that might be a bottom. So I would wait for Sasol to make higher lows. The next thing I would probably wait for is at least this high of this candle, and I'll zoom that out for you. This candle, waiting there at 262 Rand 90 to change into a support on a Friday close. In other words, the share needs to close above 262.90 by Friday, because then at least the negativity would be confirmed here. And then obviously that strong consolidation base waiting there at 299 Rand 48 Sasol needs to change that level into a support before I can think the possibility that it might try to reach for that red line, the 40-week moving average, waiting at 304 Rand and 11 cents. For long-term investors, I would even wait for 304 Rand 11 to change into a support. And remember, this moving average, that 40-week, as the share price declines, that moving average would also decline. Why? It's the average closing price for 40 weeks on a Friday, plotted on a graph. So that red line will, as the movement of the share declines, will also go lower. So 5 or 8 weeks from now, that would no longer be 304 Rand 11. That price would move. But keep an eye on it, because I've mentioned even last week, Michael, that the 40-week moving average should not be ignored if it cannot change that level into support. Take a look here. Sasol, when it started to change that level into a resistance, it tested it, it retraced, it tested it again, could not keep it as support, and it just plummeted. And again, it tested it, could not change it into a support, and plummeted. Those are all critical warning, bells and whistles. Everyone shouting, be careful. Don't ignore the fact that Sasol has not changed that 40-week moving average into a support yet. I hope those are good levels. Keep 216.19 as a possible protection level if you are scared about 180 Rand. And then obviously that upper band and that 40-week moving average are critical levels to use to see if the share can break through it. Please feel free to send us your questions. We'll see you next week. Have a fabulous week. Take care.